Good evening. Welcome to week 11, designing and deploying cloud applications, cs298. All right, so this week we're going to move a little bit further. No, not there. We're going to talk about deploying and configuring our AWS S3 buckets. I created a video to do that, and I'm going to attach it to the end of this video, similar to what I did last week. But in that video, you'll see upload your how and where to upload your code in your S3 bucket from last week, and how to configure it so that it's accessible from the web. Basically, you can share your link with anybody and they'll be able to access it. Right now, when you access or view your code through your browser or your laptop or your desktop, you can't share that link with anybody because that's local to your machine. But once you deploy it on S3 bucket, you can share your link with anybody anywhere in the world and they can access it. Um, a better way will actually be to have a very nice looking URL. For example, cnn.com, yahoo.com. So you can have your own .com, .org, or .info. But as I also mentioned in that video, the domain names, that's what those are called, need to be registered and paid for, and then we configure it to point to the AWS S3 buckets. But for this class, since we're not spending any time, we are not going to go through that process. And the good thing is, in reality, you won't even have to deal with that. That's something that falls under the what's it called? Under the care of your tech ops or DevOps department. All right. I believe I graded everybody's homework from last week, and I think everybody submitted. I didn't give much of a feedback because there was not much of a feedback. It was just a matter of, well, were people able to create the S3 bucket? Bear in mind, okay, so the homework for this week is just you posting in the assignment the link to your S3 bucket. Please make sure you go through the video, make sure you follow all the steps to actually make sure that the link you're sending to me is a working link. If you run into any problems, do let me know, but I don't think you should have any problem. So in the assignment, simply post the link and I will check it out to see what your website looks like, and that will be the assignment for this week. I didn't for the last week. I don't think I actually commented on most people's work because there was just not much to say. You are either able to create the S3 bucket or you were not. Um, when you are deploying, please remember to use your IAM user, not your root user. It's not that you can use your root user, you can use your root user, but it's always good practice to move away from using an administrative or a root user to do this kind of things. Okay. Um, we have, apart from this week, we have about 4 more weeks before the end of classes. And what we're going to spend the rest of the semester on is one, making our website better, and then two, we are actually going to at some point deploy it on an EC2, and maybe one or two of those pages we are actually going to um, do some database interaction. So, for example, if you have a form on your website, you will be able to save the data into a database or grab data into from the database. Okay, I think so. For my own website, I think I have a blog, so I might pull data from the blog to show on the website, or post data to post data from my website to the database and have it loaded on another page. So for the remaining 4 weeks, those are the two things. The things dealing with. All right. If anybody does have any questions, of course, as usual, please send me an email. I'll be more than happy to respond. All right. Have a lovely rest of the week. Okay, so this is my AWS console. I'm logged in as the IAM user, not as the root user. Um, as we covered last week. What I want to do now is upload my website and view it from the URL via S3. So I'll go into S3. This is my bucket created from last week. And what I want to do is I want to upload that folder that contains my website. Okay, so I'm going to click upload. And I will click add folders. It also says drag and drop folder files and folders you want to upload here, or you could use this button. You know what? Let me drag and drop. Looking for my folder, drag, drop. There you go. My folder structure is not that great right now because I was making some changes earlier, but anyway. Add the files, blah blah blah. The bunch of files because I created my website using a template, so I have quite a number of files. Don't worry, you probably won't have that many files. If you do, that's fine too. All right, so let me see. Did that complete uploading? Then click upload, and here it's uploading. It might take a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes, depending on your bandwidth. Okay, so now it's picking up. It says 3 more minutes to go. We'll wait for it, just for it to upload. 50%. Nearly there. Boom. Good. So we're done. The files are here. But anyway, so click on close there. Now let's go into our bucket. I'm going to pick any file. Let me just pick a file. Let's see. My index. Where is it? Yeah. So this is my index.html file. If you look around here, you have a bunch of things. This is your this is to reload or to refresh the content. Copy the S3 URL. The S3 URL is different from the browser URL. Let's take a quick look. So if I click on copy the S3 URL, where's this is Eclipse, right? Let me open a new file. File, new. Let me just open a blank file. That should give me a blank file. It's not giving me a blank file. All right, let's call it a.txt. All right, so this is my S3. Where's paste? All right, I'm gonna copy again. Copy S3 URL, and this is paste. So this might be a little bit difficult to see. Blah blah blah. Let's see. All right, if you look at the pieces here, the protocol here is S3. Okay, not HTTP, which is what you will expect it to be. There is what's it called? There's something called the AWS command line tool, AWS CLI. AWS CLI. It's a command line tool. It's a tool that you can install on your laptop or your computer and use it to interact with AWS if you like command line things. When we did the upload here, we could have used the AWS CLI. When you're using the AWS CLI, the S3 URL becomes important because that's the formatting for the resource locator, how you locate different folders and different objects in S3. And as you notice here, it starts with S3, not HTTP, not FTP, not anything else but S3, because that's specific to the S3 bucket for AWS Amazon. Now, the URL to this index.html file is actually if you click on copy URL, you can download, you can open. If it recognizes the extension and it's going to try to open it, you can delete it, and you can perform a bunch of other actions there. You can create subfolders and stuff. But I'm going to use copy URL here. So I've copied my URL, and I will, let me see. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to paste it here. Well, before I paste it, let me show you what the URL looks like actually with. So this is the URL that I copied. Paste. Of course, because it's a URL for the web browser, it has HTTPS in front of it, then ://, right? Then my bucket name. Okay. Then S3, which is S3, AWS S3. Then the region, US East 2. And then the rest is just Amazon AWS.com. Of course, my site, I call it Chelsea fan site. It's under the HTML folder, and the file is called index.html. So if I paste this here, paste, yeah, that's what I expect, because by default, we don't have access. So when you try to access it, it's telling you that access is denied. It tells you again, access denied. And it gives you some codes, like if you were to troubleshoot this, if we say it's a live site and you are getting access denied, you need to troubleshoot it, then you will need these two tags to maybe share with customer service at Amazon. But in this case, we know exactly what's going on, right? It's because we don't have access. So what we need to do is let's go back to our bucket. Okay, so this is our bucket. We need to give it permission. We need to give permissions rather. Okay, we'll come back to this in a second, because this is also an issue. We are saying block public access. We're basically blocking all access outrightly. Actually, you know what? Let's turn this off. Let's not block public access. Okay, so I'm going to check this off, and I will save this, right? Updating the basic, blah, blah, blah. Yes, if you don't accept it anyway, you can't do anything. So confirm. Okay, so now we're not blocking public access. Well, let's see if it will open for us. Let's refresh. Yep, we still can't access it. And that's what is expected, because we need to add what is known as a policy for that bucket. A policy is what guides or guards access overall to each resource within AWS or within any cloud infrastructure. So for this, we want to edit our policy, our bucket policy. The bucket policies in AWS is written in JSON. JSON is JavaScript object notation. JSON. JavaScript object notation. So the JS is from JavaScript, O from objects, and from notation. All right. Well, you could copy anyone from the web if you find it, but we don't need to do that. We can actually build one right here within the um, tool here. So edit statement. Well, we need to add a new statement, and that's what we want to do. So we started this way. Um, we'll modify the ID just to make it easy. So let's maybe call this my S3 public policy or something like that, whatever you want to call it, something that makes sense. Principle here, we just want it to be everything. So we're going to simply say asterisk, okay? We want to give access to every object, at least every file within the bucket. What we want to do is effect, we want to allow, all right? What we don't have yet is action and resource. All right, so action, we can add an action on the side here. We want to add an action on on S3 bucket, right? So S3 is what we type in our filter. You pick S3 here, then filter action. For this particular use case, what we need is what is known as the get object action. That is the person, whoever is calling, whoever is trying to access your website, what they are doing is they're using the get method. So it's get object. Whether they are calling the HTML file, the JSS file, the CSS file, or images, we are trying to get those objects. So filter, let's type get object, and that's the first one up there. So it populates it here for us. If we wanted to add more actions, we could, but that's all we need for this particular case. Now, the resource of interest is our S3 bucket. So what we need to put here is what is known as the Amazon resource name, or ARN. And you don't need to find it too far. It's right here, right on top here. So if you copy this, you can paste that in here. Of course, you could paste it within square brackets if you have multiple, but in this case, we just have one. So I'm not even going to worry about putting it inside square brackets, which represents an array. Same thing here for this one. I could just simply use S3 get object outside of the square, get rid of the square brackets, because I only have one action that I'm interested in. So we can save this, I believe. Add resource. Yeah, I did it. So, what I did here was I went ahead and manually added the resource. You could have built it here. You could have used this to build it, and just like we built the action as well. All right, here we're getting an interesting error message. It says network failure. Verify permission to access analyzer validator policy in IAM to use policy validation. Excuse me. What this is just telling us is that the user that is logged in right now, remember this is my IAM user, does not have access to use the access analyzer validation policy, does not have that role granted to it, which is fine. And you know why it's fine? Because in real life, you wouldn't be the one doing this. It's your tech ops or DevOps people that will do this. They have the root access or the admin access, and they will do this as the admin user. So what I'm going to do, if I save this, it's not going to save because of that problem. Okay. If you look here too, let's see. It says action does not apply to any resource in statement. Oh, okay. One more thing. Sorry. So this is the resource name. This is the resource name, right? I need to include slash asterisk. That is, asterisk is used to mean everything. Okay, just like here for the principal, I said asterisk. Asterisk means everything. So this is the resource name, and all I'm doing is I'm saying everything under that resource name. So this is the bucket name, everything under the bucket. So let's run this. Let's try and save this again. We should probably get a different message. Oh, it actually saved it this time around. Let's see. Oh, I wasn't expecting it to save it. That's interesting. Okay, it accepted it and it saved it. That's fine. Because I thought I would either need to save the policy as the admin user or grant the validate policy role to my IAM user, but it saved it, so that's perfectly okay. Object ownership, all of this. You don't necessarily need to do anything here. Cross origin resource sharing gets interesting when you start hosting resources that others are interested in, or when you are interested in pulling resources from other domains. For now, we'll leave it as is. It doesn't change anything. So we should be good at this point. Can I get out of this page? All right. Well, before I even do that, let's go back to this that we were trying to. By now, I believe this. If I refresh this, this should work. So this is my site, and now all those guys, I can click on them, and all my links should work. Right. I've not done much update on this site since last weekend, just because I've been busy. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna go ahead, do your own deployment. Now so this is the home one, right? This is my index.html. What your home what I want you to do is, of course, upload your website, grab the beginning URL, and submit that in your assignment. Now, this URL doesn't look pretty, I know. Ordinarily, what we should do, if this was a production environment or a real life, is we should go to a registrar of domains. Say, for example, we could go to godaddy.com and register a domain name. Okay. Um, you could do a search for a domain name. I don't know. Let's see Adebayo. That's my last name, right? Dot .org or dot .info. Okay. Adebayo.info is available for $69.99. Adebayo.us is available for $79.99. A lot. So this .info, .us, .org, .com, all of those, they are called top level domains, TLDs, and they are sold at different rates. So, for example, you find .us being cheaper than .info. The reason is just it depends on demand. .info is more in demand than .us. .com is also in more demand than any others. .com, .org, those are the two main ones. So ordinarily, if this was a production thing, we will register a domain name here. I mentioned GoDaddy because I prefer GoDaddy. The sites that I have on the personal, I actually use GoDaddy for them. You could also register through Google or register.com. I believe Amazon actually does domain registration as well. But bottom line is you register your domain name and you point it through what is known as a domain name service. You use that to point to where your website is, whoever is hosting your website. In this case, it will have been Amazon, AWS. But I'm not going to go through that because to register a domain name, you need to buy the domain. And again, for this class, we are not spending a dime. But if I had registered adebayo.info at godaddy.com, I will have pointed it to the Amazon web name server, and that will redirect it to this domain. This what's it called? Domain when someone clicks on adebayo.info. Amazon also has more sophisticated routing services that they use to route domain names and all that stuff. But for this, the purpose of this class, we're going to use this ugly domain name because it's free and it's what's provided to us without having to pay anything by Amazon. I don't know if any of you actually try to create a bucket using this cs298 Olumide static web. You wouldn't be able to because bucket, I'm not sure if I mentioned this last week, buckets names in AWS are unique. So you can also be sure that if somebody else was doing this, since you can't create it the same bucket name, then your URL will be unique as well. So let me get out. Let me go back here. All right. So for that, we've uploaded our bucket, our website. What I need you to do is again upload yours, grab the URL, post it in the assignment, and then spend some time. Don't forget to set the permission, the policy, and all that. Spend some time, just sprouse up your website, make it look more presentable. Go ahead, re-upload it. When you make your changes, by all means, come back here, upload it, and make it look nice, make it look presentable. Let's see, where am I? One second. Properties. If you want, you could, enable versioning if you choose to. Versioning will just be like as you upload each your folder each time, it keeps a version of the previous one. You probably don't need it except if you're scared that you might make a big mess, then you might be able to revert to a previous version. But I'm not going to bother enabling versioning in this case. But if you choose to, by all means, do. All right, I'm going to stop here this week. I hope this was not I don't expect this to be complicated. You guys have been on top of this, but if you do have any questions, do let me know.